Don't take bone plating into Jax on urgot. Thank you. I think it's okay. I think I can just ultimate him straight away. I just misplayed the matchup. Conditioning is nice, but I don't think you lose early game as urgot at all. If you take bone plating, and if you don't, you can actually lose. I don't think conditioning is worth it because at the point you're at 12 minutes and you finish Black Cleaver, you're stronger than Jax the whole game. So all you need to do is make sure you get the Black Cleaver without losing any edge, and you are absolutely just outperforming Jax on side lane, outperforming Jax in team fights, and you're just a hard counter. That's my opinion. You're free to have your own opinion. Don't fight level 7. I agree with that. I shouldn't fight when the wave's bouncing and I have gold in the bank. Ask Quante. I talk to Quante quite often, and as much as I appreciate him, I have my own opinions on how the champions interact, and I think that it matters
Wait,
more.
do you mean Rumble Urgot? Are you talking about that?
No, I'm talking about Jax Urgot. Someone in your chat's
Jesus,
telling me that bone plating is bad into Jax, and I think that it's actually quite good because as long as I can stop him from having any advantage or get any neutral objective by the time I get Cleaver, I'm in a better spot.
The thing when dealing with one tricks, right? Or like conversations with one tricks, right? And this is like really frustrating, and the community doesn't seem to get this, right? Is competitive is a different game than solo queue. And also the level of players that you're playing against in a competitive game, and also when they're in the competitive environment, is different than solo queue. And like, sure, there's like theory of like what you can do, but then there's also theory of what the other person can do, and then there's what the champions can do, and it's like the conversations just get really weird because they warp it to their solo queue perspective rather than like what happens in competitive. When like you're intentionally playing to do a certain thing, like so for instance, like there's tons of matchups where in solo queue, it's just a nightmare. You just can't lane, right? Or like you have a matchup where you can just bash on the opponent, and like if their jungler doesn't help them, or fucking they don't get good recalls off because they can't because it's a solo queue jungler, and like you have a solo queue jungler, and there's just higher variance, then the matchup's going to go totally different than the way that it's going to go in competitive. Like I don't even know how we begin to have these types of conversations with people that I don't know, man. Fuck. I'm gonna rant. I'm gonna stop here. Yeah.
I mean, you can. I don't mind. I think it's an interesting point. I agree with you. And one thing that I actually find that not enough people advocate for is taking runes for a specific reason and executing that view is the first step. Even if you have the wrong idea, the fact that you display an ability to change runes, for example, or builds, means that you're going in the right direction in the sense of like trying to achieve a certain purpose as a champion, right? So for example, you know, maybe Grasp Urgot is able to get to Black Cleaver more safely than press the attack Urgot, and that's worth it in the game I played because as long as I get the Black Cleaver, my damage output doesn't matter anymore. Like I'm always going to have enough damage to kill their front line, and we're always going to win front to back.
Right.
So Grasp Urgot might be the best build. And now maybe Grasp is worse rune than Spellbook to get to that point, right? And you love mentioning this for Cho'Gath, right? And I think Cho'Gath is a really great example of this, where Ornn as well, by the way, with Spellbook to Grasp comparisons, where it's just like you're better off taking Spellbook because it's more consistent to get to the point where you're going to consistently win. And all you need is to take the defensive summoner spells, cycle those, whatever that is. However, if you're someone that takes Comet Ornn or Comet Cho'Gath, which is worse, right, than Spellbook, it's still going in the right direction of the idea of you take a certain set of early game runes to help you get to the stage where you win.
Right. Offense is defense, yeah.
Yes, basically. And I think it's the first step. Obviously, like there's an optimal way to build. I'll give you an example. I think Spellbook on Swain has been his best keystone for a very long time. I just simply think the Conqueror is overkill, and I think that the Sorcery Tree doesn't give him enough resilience early game. That's my opinion, of course. I've run by this.
But what about
absolutely awful?
Now that he gets whatchamacallit, he gets ability haste.
Honestly, it does make it a lot more attractive. I think ability haste in that rune tree is something that I didn't consider recently. That's a very good point. So I think that makes like also cut down being significantly better for him now. That makes me actually understand why someone would even consider a Conqueror. But the first thing I would have done this season is actually look at footwork, because I feel like footwork Swain would have been something quite legal with how strong it was. Yeah, with how strong footwork was pre all the nerfs. I do think it would have been legal to play that instead of Conqueror with the same ideas of like scaling very well and the movement speed actually would have been pretty relevant because it was like 1.5 seconds of move speed straight up. Like, that's pretty crazy for swain.
Yeah.
Something to consider. But yeah, no, I agree with you fundamentally that the haste runes and cut down make it a lot better than it used to be. But people used to run it when it was like, you grab tenacity, but I felt like you wanted to rush merc treads into anything that had CC anyway, because your champion was so vulnerable to getting bursted that the tenacity was a bit overkill. And like I said, like, I mean, I just fundamentally believe that Swain with cleanse and ghost, like, these two summoner spells are fucking nuts on Swain. It's so OP. It's crazy. And I feel like if you time them well and play around it well, it's like, it's a big difference for how he functions in teamfights later.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, though. Like I said, I play that way too. I play for those conditions. When I play Swain, I actually actively use... I swap to Ghost first, and then when... with how Spellbook works, around 25 minutes, you get to cycle another Ghost. And that's how I always made sure I cycled 2 Ghosts from my Spellbook, and I felt like 2 uses out of Ghost was, like, invaluable for Swain. Like, it's so...
Oh, it's super big. It's super big, yeah. It's super big.
Which is why I lean towards...
I would like Riot to add another summoner. I wonder how they even could.